This is Dave and welcome to the Table, a series of videos where I review and discuss various board and card games looking at them from a family perspective. Today we're going to be taking a look at a project that's currently on Kickstarter from Minion Games called Dead Men Tell No Tales. Now this is a cooperative game for 2 to 4 players in which you are pirates that have overtaken this ship called the Skeleton's Revenge, and your job is to go in there and explore the ship and loot it and carry out a certain amount of treasure before the ship explodes. So if you can do that, you're going to win the game. However, there is a lot of things that are going to be working against you. You're going to have crew members that are on the ship. You're going to have enemies that are going to be moving around trying to attack you. You have guards that are defending the treasure, and the ship is on fire, and you have a growing amount of intensity of fire that's going to prevent you from moving around the ship unless you take the time to fight it. Also, you're going to get tired and fatigued, and that's going to have a major effect on how you play this game. Adds up to a whole bunch of excitement, right? Alright, let's take a look at the game, how it's played, and I'll come back and I'll give you my thoughts. Okay, let's go over the components that come in Dead Men Tell No Tales, and you're going to get a lot of stuff here. The first thing here we have is the Skeleton's Revenge starting tile here, and this is where the action is going to start from. And there's going to be a few rooms here, and we have this explosion track along the bottom. Next, there's going to be a stack of these room tiles here that you're going to use to build the ship and the game board here, and I'll go over what the symbols mean when we get into the gameplay. There's going to be a stack of these Skeleton's Revenge cards that are going to have certain events that are going to happen during the game that's going to put your pirates in a whole lot of peril. There's going to be some cubes here that these represent crew members that are going to be popping up all over the ship. Then there's going to be a number of these little treasure tokens that you're going to get, and a black pouch that you're going to be able to throw those in here, and I'll cover all of that stuff during the gameplay as well. Each player is going to receive one of these player boards here, and if you see in the middle we have this dial here, and this is a fatigue tracker, and this is a major resource that you're going to have to manage during the game so you don't get tired out and you don't get yourself in trouble. On this board also here you have a space here that's going to be called your cargo hold to hold any treasure that you're going to get. You have a battle track down at the bottom. This is going to give you dice modifiers for any combat. And then there's 2 spaces along the side of the board. One here is going to be where your character is going to go, and then an item on the other side. So, speaking of characters, this is one particular one here, but there's going to be a whole cast of different characters that you can choose to play during the game, and it will just slide in this little slot right next to the game. And there's also going to be item cards, and each character will be able to carry an item that you're going to choose from randomly, and just because you have this one, later on you can get something else. And there's a couple other markers that are coming in the game here. We have an explosion marker that's going to go along here and track in case the let you know how close it is before the ship is going to explode. You have some action marker tokens that are 2-sided, so you'll be able to flip them over. You're going to use this to keep track of your turns. And then there's going to be a number of these different dice here that are going to come in the game. And these are fire dice right here. So you've got red ones and yellow ones that you're going to use during the game. And they're going to measure the intensity of fires that are going to break out on the ship. And then finally you're going to have a battle die. The game is going to come with some quick reference cards here, which I kind of have off to the side. And so you're going to get lots of stuff here too, even little pawns for your pirates that are going to be showing up on the game board here, and a little character marker that you're going to place on your ship as well. It's going to move back and forth here. So, a lot of components. Let me get this game set up and I'll show you how it's played. Okay, this is going to be a 2-player demo for this game, and the first thing I want to do is show you how to set up your character space here. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take a character board and you're going to put it in front of you and set the fatigue dial to the number 0 here. Next, you need to have a character that you're going to play, and so what I like to do is just randomly select one here. There's 7 of them in this particular deck, so I'm just going to choose one right here, and let's see who we have. So we have Crimson Flynn, and he's going to have a specific ability. It says this player can lower fire levels in adjacent rooms in addition to the room that he is in. So this guy is kind of a really, really good firefighter. So we're going to place him in this slot here. And next we have to get him an item. So we're going to draw randomly one from one of these item cards here. So we'll just kind of draw this one here. Let's see what he gets. And he's going to get a blanket, and this says may lower a fire die by 2 once per turn. So this is going to be really, really good for him. This guy is going to be really set for fighting a fire. So the next thing that we're going to do here for this particular character is we're going to find out, we're going to find his little matching icon here, which we did, and we'll flip it over and we'll find out what color he is, and he is red. So I'm going to place this here down on the 0 on his battle track, and we're going to take the red pawn and we'll set it off to the side when I get the game board. And I'm going to go ahead and get the other character set up, and you'll see who I'm playing when we get the board ready. Okay, the other character that's going to be joining Crimson Flynn is Cobalt Carl, and he has an ability here of while looting, this player is fatigued as if he were not looting. And I'll explain looting in a little bit. And his item that he has is a bucket, which says may lower a fire die in an adjacent room once per turn. Well, some of the terminology that I've been using to this point, looting and fire die, and fire levels, is not going to make a lot of sense quite yet until we get into the gameplay. Now, the setting for this ship is going to, the setting for this game is on a ship called the Skelet's Revenge, and this is the starting tile that's going to represent this ship. And over the course of the game, we're going to build out this ship and form the game board here. And the idea is that we have as taking on the role of pirates, and we are here to explore this ship and loot as much treasure as we can, get off the ship and reach our goal before the ship explodes. And there's different levels of difficulty here, and this is a 2-player demo. We're just going to do the Scurvy Dog, which our goal is going to be to loot 4 treasures on this game. You can adjust the difficulty here, and you can make it as as easy or as difficult as you want. So we're not going to play a whole game through, but I'm going to show you the concepts of how the game is played. But right now, the goal here would be to loot 4 treasures before the ship explodes. So on this game board here, let me show you some important things. Number 1 here, at the bottom, there's this baseline here, and this is going to represent the edge of the game board. And as we're laying tiles and building out the ship, we cannot build further out below this line. We have this track right here. This is called an explosion track here, and we're going to use a marker that will be able to mark the number of explosions that will occur on this ship. And if we get up to the point where it reaches this right here, the ship explodes and everybody dies. Now there's a number of rooms that are going to be on here, and there's 4 on the starting tile here, and you'll see these little blue spots that are going to represent the doorways that you're going to be able to go in and out of on this ship. And the starting space here is going to be this little this dinghy right here. So we're gonna have to make our way out in through this room here to get to this ship, to get off of it. Now each of these rooms here, you'll see that there's this that looks like a die with a question mark on them, and these are representative of those fire die, which I talked about before. And there's red ones and yellow ones. And these are going to tell you what the intensity of the fire is in each of these rooms. And most of the tiles will have something that's a fixed value that it will start off with, but these will be randomly generated, which I'm going to do in a minute. And then finally here we have these trapdoor icons, and where these are, this is where crew members of the ship are going to pop up. So to get this started here, what we're going to do is we're going to take die and we're going to roll to generate these values here. And so for this we have 2 red and 2 yellow, so I'm going to take 2 red and 2 yellow of these fire die, and I'm going to roll them to get the values. Now at the start of the game, let me show you what the roles are here. We have a yellow 3, we have a yellow 1, a red 1, and a red 6. At the start of the game, if there's any of the values that roll a 6, we need to re-roll this. So I'm going to roll this again. So this is a 4. So I'll put the 4 here, we'll put the 1 here, 3 here, and a 1 here. And we're going to place them on those spaces to start. And then at the start of the game, where there's this trapdoor, we're going to put a crew member here, and then we're going to place our starting players here. Next thing that we're going to do in terms of setup is we'll take all the remaining item cards and we'll put them along the side of the game board, because you can switch out items later on. We'll put all the fire die and the battle die off to one side. And we have a couple other things that we have over here. We're going to put our crew members off to the side over here. We have the Skeletor's Revenge cards that are shuffled up. And then we have the room tiles over here. And at the start of the game, what they tell you to do is to count off 2 tiles per number of players, and you offset them. So what's going to happen is during the first turn, each player is going to reveal 2 tiles to get the board built out quicker, and then on subsequent turns we will be building with 1 tile at a time. And then finally take the treasure tokens, and I place them all in this black bag. They're all shuffled up and set off to the side. Each player down in their play area is going to place 5 of these action marker tokens, although there is one character that will allow you to have 6. And we're going to get ready to start the game here. So there's going to be 3 steps that are going to happen on each of your turns, and it's going to be search the ship, take pirate actions, and resolve Skillet's Revenge. Okay, so let's get started here, and Crimson Cobalt will be the first player here. And so on his turn, the first thing that he's going to do is he's going to start exploring the ship here. We're going to search the ship. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have to flip over 2 tiles and build out the ship here. And so we'll flip over this first one here, and as you can see here, there's going to be a yellow die placed down that's going to have a value of 2 on there. And when we place these tiles, we just have to make sure that these doorways line up. So I can place this one. I can't place this one here because I'm going to have a doorway. Well, I could actually, and have a doorway that's going to lead off of the ship over here. But you have to make sure that everything kind of lines up. So this one here along this edge, there's no doorway here. So we may want to not do that. We'll place this one over here just to be on the safe side here. And we will then place the yellow number 2 die here as the counter. And we will reach into this bag, and we're going to draw out a treasure token, and we're going to put it on the board. And so we have, and they're 2-sided, and so this happens to be an enemy right here, and he is going to have a strength value of 4, and I'll get to that in a little bit. And we're just going to place him right on the board. There's like a little circle space. And the second tile here that we flip up is this one here, which is going to give you a red die value of 1, and there is this powder keg here that has a value of 3. And what's going to happen is over time these fires are going to intensify, and if we get this up to a 3, this is going to explode in this room and going to cause some damage. So I think on this side over here, I'll place it out on this side here, and I'm going to place this red die here, and let me draw a token from here, and we'll place this on the board here. We have a trap door there, and so that's going to kind of come into play later on when crew members start popping up on the ship. Okay, so Crimson Cobalt is going to be the first player, which is the blue guy, and he's going to have 5 actions that he's going to be able to take. So the first thing that he can do is he can move into a room. We're going to move him in here, and we will exhaust one of our action points. So we'll just flip this upside down here. So we've used one of our action points here, and this is a die value of 1, and so what's going to happen is he's going to enter into this fire, and right away he's going to experience fatigue of 1. So his fatigue counter is going to go up by 1. Okay, and I'm going to get to the fatigue in a little bit. The other option that he could do is choose to run, where he can move 2 spaces. And if he does, he's going to add 2 to his fatigue, plus if he goes into another room that has a fire level higher than where he's at, that is going to affect him as well. But I think for right now, what we're going to try to do here is try to put out some of these fires, especially over by this powder keg over in this room over here on the board. So his second action point is he's going to run. So 1, 2. He's going to expend this point here, and his fatigue levels are going to go up by 2. So now his fatigue level is a 3 on the board. Another action that he can do is he can choose to lower a fire die, and so that's an action. So what he's going to do is, it's already at a 1. He'll use one action point here to lower this. So if it's already at a 1, he's just going to remove it. So this one's going to come off. So essentially right now we put the fire out, and he's going to use his once per turn ability with his blanket here, where he may lower a fire die in an adjacent room once per turn. So I'm going to put this fire out as well. So that's going to be removed. So right now we've put out 2 fires, and I have 2 actions left here that I can do. And so one of the actions that I could do is I can choose to rest, and for 1 action point I can lower my fatigue level by 2, which I think I'll do that and put me back down to 1. One of the other things that we can do is we can pick up a token if we have something here that's going to be somewhat of a treasure, but this is a trap door, so that's not going to help us. And the other things that we can do is I can choose to swap items. If I choose to swap items, I could take the item that I have in my possession right now, and I can choose to change it with either the other players that are playing, or any of the items that are available on the side of the game board. So we can kind of change items around. So it's kind of gives you this feel of you're running around the ship grabbing whatever you can use during this whole adventure. And then finally what we can do, we can increase our battle strength here. For 1 action point we can move this up to give us a die modifier, which I'm going to do that here. And so that's going to be the turn for player number 1. Now player number 2, we're going to have the the next thing that we need to do now is we have to resolve the Skillet's Revenge here. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip over this card and resolve it. And so what's going to happen is that the first thing is, if there's any yellow die that have the number 2 on there, the fire is going to increase. Well, we have one right over here, and this is going to increase to a level 3. And the next thing that we have on here is going to do with this trapdoor, and this is going to be crew members spreading out. And I'll show you what that does. So the way that this works is that in a room that has a trapdoor that has crew members already in there, the crew members are going to spread into each adjacent room if possible, as long as the fire level is less than where it's starting at. So this is a 3, so he can move into the 1. So what's going to happen is we're going to add a crew member here. So crew members are coming up out of the ship and moving around. So that was the first action that was resolved here. So we discard the Skillet's Revenge card off to the side, and now we're going to go on to the red player's turn. Here is going to do the same thing, pick up 2 tiles here. Now this one here, that if there is a blank here, we're not going to add a die at this time. So this room is not on fire currently. So, but it means that there can be something that's going to come later on. So let me go ahead and place this over here. Where do we want to put this at? We have to make sure that things line up here. So I'll place that right there, because this one here we see a spot where there's no doorway, and so I couldn't place this here and block off the thing. So I'm going to place this right here. And the second one here we're going to flip up is this 4, and it's got a doorway going in each direction. So I'm going to place this one over here and place this red 4. So as we're building the ship here, you can see situation, there's lots of fires that are going on. So the next player over here has 5 action points here. He's going to move on to this ship here, and one of the actions that so the first thing he's going to do is spend an action to move. Goes his fatigue level up by 1. Now I can choose to eliminate a crew member here for 1 action point, which I'll do that. So I'll get rid of this guy here. Now when you're in a room, the first thing you can do before you do anything else really is kind of get rid of the crew members. You can't pick up any tokens or anything like that. The next action that we're going to do is I'm going to move into this room here. And now I went from a 1 to a 4, so my fatigue level is going to go up by 3. So now I'm going to be going up to a 4. Now as the fatigue level increases, we're going to be not able to move into certain rooms here. Right now, as long as our fatigue level is good, we can go all the way up into any room that has a die level of 5. But once we go past that, we're gonna be not able to enter certain rooms. Like if we get to a fatigue point of 6, we'll no longer be able to go into a room that has a fire level of 5. So be mindful of that as you're moving around the ship here, especially with some of the fires that are intense. So next action point here, I'm going to choose to put this fire, I'm going to go lower the fire level by 1. Actually what's going to happen here is I'm going to use my blanket, and I can lower the fire level by 2 instead of by 1. So this is going to go down to a 2. And the other thing that I can do, I have the other special ability where I can lower fire levels in adjacent rooms too. But what I'm going to do here is show you one of the cool things that about this game here is that I still have 2 turns left, and I can choose to end my turn right here, and I can pass my unused action tokens over to this first player over here, which I'm going to do just for the purpose of the demonstration. So now we're going to resolve Skillet's Revenge, see what happens here. And so what's going to happen here is any dies with yellow dies with a 2 are going to increase, which there are none right now, so that's good. And then there's going to be this enemies are going to move, and so what's going to happen is then if there's an enemy on the board, it's going to move into a space that's adjacent to it. So if we look over here on the board, we have this enemy that's going to move into this red person's space. And so what's going to happen is now there's going to be combat that's going to ensue. And so what's going to happen is we are going to use the combat die, and we are going to roll this die to see what the result is. This guy has a strength of 4, so I need to have at least a 4 or higher to beat him. So I rolled a 2, which is not good because I lose. And so what's going to happen now is if I lose, let's see what happens here. Okay, since I lost, the first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to fatigue the difference between the strength of the enemy and this battle die. So my fatigue level is going to go up to 2 now, which is a level 6. And now I'm going to roll this die again to determine what the result is going to happen here. So I rolled a 1. And the 1 is that the enemy retreats into the adjacent room of my choice, and so I can choose to move him however I want to. So I'm going to put him back where he came from. And so that's how you resolve the combat. But that's going to kind of leave my guy now into a little bit of a not so good situation. I'm going to have to take some time to rest to bring my fatigue level down. So now that we've resolved that Skelet's Revenge, what's going to happen is we're going to continue on with our turn. However, now we're only going to be placing one tile at a time. Okay, back to the blue player's turn now here, and what happened is that the previous player had passed his turn and sent over 2 additional action tokens. So now on this turn I have 7 things that I can do. So I'm in this room here. I put the fire out and I just placed this tile here. I'm going to place this yellow 3 right here on the board to determine this fire level. And drew the token out here, and what I have is a guard here, and he has a level 6. So he's kind of a tough guy. You can't really see it here. There we go. He is a level or strength 6. So going into that, I'm going to take some time to prepare to go in and to try and battle him. And so I have already from a previous turn I had increased my battle strength by 1. So I'm going to spend 2 action points here and increase it by 2 more. So now I have a +3 on my modification. So if I'm going to go in and try to take on this guy here, I will be able to add 3 to my die roll here. Now when I choose, I'm going to move into this room here, and I went from a 0 to a 3. So now I'm going to increase my fatigue level by 3, so it'll put me up to a 4. And what's going to happen now is I'm going to have to battle this guy here. And if I choose to use my battle strength here, I can't just use a little bit of it. I'm going to have to use it all. But I want to ensure that I beat this guy. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the +3 modification. I'm going to roll this die here. And I rolled a 6. So I'm going to easily defeat this guy here. So combat does not cost an action point. But what's going to happen now is I defeat him and I flip this over, and on the bottom of this is a treasure. So now the treasure is going to get placed back on the board face up, and I can choose to pick it up if I want to, which I'm going to do. So I'm going to pick this up, and right now I'm going to be carrying it with me, and so I have to it's going to kind of go in my cargo hold here on my player board. So I'm just going to place this right here. And so as long as I'm carrying a treasure, I'm going to be limited now into what I can do, because I would be considered looting. And so now the only thing I can do is walk, rest, or swap my items. So I can no longer run. However, Cobalt Carl's ability says while looting, this player is fatigued as if he were not looting. So one of the things that's going to happen is when we fatigue, as soon as you move into another room, you're going to gain fatigue level. You're going to fatigue whatever the level of that room is. So before, if it was like if you only moved into something that was higher, you would gain fatigue. But right now, because you're carrying something, you're already tired. So I still have use an action point to pick that up. So I still have 4 actions. So I want to show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to use 1 action to move. He's going to fatigue. This one here, we put the fire out, so he's not going to gain anything here. Another action to move here. And then we'll use 1 more action here to move into this room. I'll fatigue by 1. And then finally 1 more action to move into the dinghy space here. And so what's going to happen now is I'm going to take this treasure and I'm going to place it onto this dinghy card here that comes with the game. And so I'm going to place this off to the side here, and we have 1 treasure that has been collected so far. Okay, so that's how we cover the whole looting thing. Now I basically don't have a treasure anymore. I can go ahead and do the rest of the things that I want to do. Now, a couple things that I want to talk about is this game can cause some major havoc here. Let me resolve this here. Let's see what happens. This one, any yellow die with a level 1 is going to increase, and the enemies are going to move. So again, we have this enemy is going to come into an adjacent room there, and he's going to move over here because he's going to come closer to the players. And this is going to increase to a 2. And again, we're going to have combat with the red player here, and this time he's going to defeat this enemy, and so he's going to flip over, and we see here that we have a grog token that he can pick up and be able to use that later on his turn. So let me talk about a little bit about some of these explosions that can happen on the game board here. For example, here, let's take a look at this particular tile. This room here has a powder keg in it that has a number 2 on it. And so right now there's no fire that's in this room. So it seems to be pretty safe. However, this other room that's next to it, off to the side here, has a number 4, and that's pretty bad. Eventually what's going to happen is that room levels are going to increase in intensity, and if the room ever gets to a 6, the room is going to explode. And what's going to happen is that when a room explodes, it is going to cause the fire level in each adjacent room to increase by 1. Well, this is not a good spot for that one to explode here, because what's going to happen is now this first room below here, we put the fire out, so now it's going to go back to a 1 here, and now this one is going to go to a 1. This die will be removed, and what's going to happen now is that this tile where the room exploded is going to flip over, and so now that is no longer passable by the players on the board. So we essentially have lost a way to move around the ship because of that explosion. So now it has since decided to ignite a fire in this room. If on a subsequent turn, what happens is we have this particular room get to a 2. What's going to happen now is this keg is going to explode, and it's going to shoot the fireball out and raise the fire level in the room next to it if there's an adjacent doorway or into this room here. So what's going to happen is this will go up to a 4 on this side here. If there was a spot where let me get the 4 here. If there's a spot where this keg was and there wasn't a doorway there, what's going to happen is you'll move around the room to find a doorway that had something that was, or actually what I should say is if this was going to explode and there wasn't an adjacent room there for the fireball to go out, you're going to start going around the room until you find a spot where it can, and the fireball will shoot out there. So it increased it right here. And then what you do is you move the die over to cover up the powder keg to show that it's not that it's exploded, so it can't explode again. Okay, as we return to the next player's turn here, I want to show you a couple things here. First of all, we're back to our 5 action tokens here. Even though we had sent 2 over to the other player before, we're always going to start back with our 5. So those are the 2 that the guy used before. He's going to use them and give them back. And again, we're going to flip over a tile here, and we're going to place this on the game board here, trying to match up some spaces. And we'll place this one here. We'll place the fire die on the game board here. So basically what we did was we just built up there. Now, one of the things that I want to show you is for our action, what we can do is we can choose to pick up an item. So what I'm going to do is pick up this grog. Now, items we can carry as many as we want. So I can carry as much grog as I want to, or there's also going to be some cutlasses which are going to increase our battle die modifier essentially as long as we have them, so permanently, until we decide to drop it. But what's going to happen is I can choose to, and it doesn't cost an action, I can choose to drink this grog, and I would discard it, and I would be able to lower my fatigue by 5. And so I'm going to hold on to that right now because I'm at a 6 right now, and I think that that's a pretty significant drop to be able to bring my fatigue down, and I want to save it. So I used one action point to pick this up. I'm going to use another action point here to lower my fatigue level by 2. And I think what I'm going to try to do now is work on trying to get some of these fires put out. And I'm going to use one of my action points to put out a fire. And I'm going to use his ability both with his character ability and his item to once per turn. I'm going to be able to lower a fire die by 2 instead of 1, and I can do it in an adjacent room. So I'm going to knock this yellow one back down from a 3 down to a 1. So use my action point there. And I think what I'm also going to do here is, if I choose to, I can lower my fatigue value by 2 by resting. And finally, I think what I'll do is to lower this fire level by 1 here. So I'll bring this down by 1. Now, let me just show you one other thing which is kind of cool in this game. When we are able to move off of the ship, we essentially when we're dropping off our treasures and stuff like that, or we can just go outside of the ship and get over here on this little board or something. It's called Take a Breather, and what we're going to do then is our turn will end and any unused action tokens will be passed over to the next player. But what we'll be able to do is reduce our fatigue level by half. So if you're already running up like with like at a 12 or something like that, if you can get out of the room or get out, you can bring it down to a 6. Now, with the fatigue, and right now it hasn't really been much of a factor, but as it increases, it's going to prohibit you from entering into certain rooms. So if you see here, like there's a 5, a 4, a 3, and a 2, eventually what's going to happen is if we get too much fatigue going on, we're not going to be able to enter into those rooms that have a fire level of that level or higher. So we have to really be careful because you can get trapped on the ship. Now, if you become trapped on the ship and you can't move anywhere, you're going to die. And what's going to happen is if you die, you are going to be able to come back as another character. So one of the nice things is there's no player elimination. You're going to discard some things, and then any of your treasure token, you're going to discard any items that you're carrying, but any treasure that you have, that treasure token is going to get dropped in the room that you're going to die, and then you're going to randomly choose a new character and a new item, and you're going to come back coming off the ship. Essentially, the captain's like, well, we need somebody else. We're going to get him. Another thing, too, is over the course of the game, there's going to be more of these Skeleton Revenge cards that are going to come up, and you're going to start having crew members start getting added to the game. So if we have like little, like this one here, if we were to resolve this Skeleton's Revenge at the end of his turn here, any red dies are going to increase by 1. So we have one here that's going to go up to a 2. This one's going to go up to a 2. And any space now that has a trapdoor, crew members are going to come out of. So we've got one's going to come out here, and we're going to add one there. So now we start having crew members coming about on the board. And like I said, before you can do certain things, you cannot, if there's a crew member in the room, you can walk through it, but you cannot pick up a cutlass or grog or treasure token in the room now if there's 2 of them in there. If there's 3 or more in a room, you cannot enter the room. So you have to be able to try to eliminate a crew member from the outside. So there's going to be a lot of this this battling and stuff like that, so it becomes very thematic. So again, this game is going to play until we have gone through this whole, until we've been able to build the ship up and collect the number of treasure tokens and get them off of the ship and complete our objective and win the game. So that's an overview of how you play Dead Men Tell No Tales. Alright, let's talk about Dead Men Tell No Tales, and this is a very, very thematic pirate game here where you are having to be a crew member, and you're trying to get this treasure. And just the whole way that the game plays out, you really are able to submerge yourself into the theme, and you really get this overall feel that you are a member of this pirate crew trying to loot this ship. And you really have to be useful and resourceful, and most of the time that's how pirates were. That's what you had to do to survive, and that's what you have to do in this game. So let me talk about the artwork that kind of sets the overall tone for this game. And you've got really cool artwork for the character cards and the items that you have, but everything else kind of gives it this you know, you've got a pirate ship feel. And if you're looking at the room tiles, it makes it look like the action is kind of like at night, and you've got like the glow of the fire, and you've got some rooms where there's fire that's going on. And so it just gives this feel of like in a movie, like a nighttime pirate battle scene. So it's very cool, and so you're able to just lends to that overall feel of the game. And then when you start getting into the gameplay itself, you've got so many cool mechanics that are in here that that really drive this game to have a level of complexity that's going to keep you engaged. You're looking at this whole concept of fatigue, and so in other cooperative games you're going around and you're working together to try to accomplish certain things, and that's very cool, but now you throw in this whole thing of fatigue, and so you've got this, you've got these fires that are going on, and if you get to a certain point when you're tired, you're not going to be able to go into specific rooms because it's just too much for you to be able to handle, and so it's going to affect your movement. Your action points are going to be affected by how you manage your fatigue, because you're going to have to use actions to rest to lower your fatigue level. You're going to have to use actions to lower the fire levels. And so that's going to play into that. You're going to have to know when to say when to get out of the ship and go take a breather and lower your fatigue level if it gets to be too much. So it's going to add to the intensity of the gameplay, and so that's really cool. You know, and then on your actions, you have different things that you're able to do. I mean, you're able to put out fires. You're able to fight off your enemies. You're able to essentially get rid of crew members. You know, it's like, I just kind of think of like you have a little dagger and you're just kind of like slit their throat, get rid of the crew member, get them out of your way. So it kind of gives it that whole pirate theme. You know, you're just kind of like, oh, get out of my way type thing. And so, so all of the actions kind of lend into this in the game. You've got some things, you know, that that have the game working against you. But one of the cool things is that you don't have player elimination in here. If something happens and your character basically is worked to death, where you get overcome by fatigue, or you get trapped where you cannot get out of, you can't move anywhere because your fatigue level is too high. Well, then you are going to die, and but the nice thing is you can come back as another character, so you're not going to have to sit out and watch as your fellow players are playing the game. So I like that. There are several ways to be able to lose this game, so you have to be mindful of that. You have, first of all, if there's too many explosions, the ship explodes. You all die. You can be overrun by crew members if there comes a time when you go to need to add crew members to the ship, and there are none to add. There's too many of them that are out there. You're just overtaken. And the other thing is that there could be enough, like if there's a room that explodes and there was treasure in there, that treasure is destroyed. And then if you are not able to collect enough treasure in this game in order to win, you're going to lose the game. So so you have things that are working against you. So you have this constant battle against the game, and which is something that you're really wanting to see in a cooperative game. When you are all working together, you're working against the game, and this game is doing its best to fight against you. So it's really going to give you a nice gameplay experience. You have a lot of different combinations with your characters and abilities that are going to change up your gameplay, and it's going to allow you to change strategies while you're playing the game. Nice thing in this game is that you are allowed to change the items that you are carrying. So you're not going to be stuck, even in the gameplay, you're stuck with the character, yes, but you can change the items, and how those items intermix is really going to change what you can do during the course of the game. So you can be mindful of that. You know, it's again, it comes down to that resourcefulness. Okay, well, I'm running around and it's really cool that I've got this bucket that I can use to do fires, but now the game has changed and I need to be able to do something else. I want to drop it and pick up another item. Well, on a ship, there's lots of different things around that you can pick up, and so the item deck kind of simulates that very, very well. So that is something that adds to this game as well. So you've got a really, really good experience of playing this game. You really feel like you're on a pirate ship. You have the game is working against you, which is really, really good. And you have the ability to change up how the gameplay flows by how you're managing your action points, your fatigue levels, and then also changing up your items and seeing how they interact with your character. Now, looking at this game from a family perspective, you can sit down with the family. If you want to have something intense, you can go ahead and play Dead Men Tell No Tales. But I would say with this one, you're going to want to try and have at least kids at the table, at least 10 and up, because they'll be able to figure out certain things, and with it being cooperative in nature, you're going to be able to talk to one another, and you can kind of coach some of the younger players, but they're also going to be able to play the game and pick up certain things on their own and kind of foster that higher level of thinking, and being able to make critical decisions. So that's one of the things that this game is going to benefit. So anyways, that's Dead Men Tell No Tales. It's currently on Kickstarter, and so if you're interested in this game and taking on this kind of experience, go ahead and pledge your support. I'll have the information in the video description below. You can go ahead and click on that. And right now, as I'm filming this, this game is funded, so it will be produced. So you will be getting a copy of it. So take advantage of backing it and getting in on some of those really cool stretch goals. All right, that's it for now, and join me again next time as we take a look at another game and we see how it makes it to the table.